Stone Cold, the Hellraiser is back!
Here we go! Evolution of the Shield!
John Cena versus the Showstopper!
Hulk Hogan and The Rock in the same ring!
You will never take my place at the head of the table!
Undertaker! On the Hell's Gate submission! Oh my God! What?
My God, Michaels! Just kick Cena's head off!
The Monday Night Wars have come to WrestleMania!
It'll be The Rock! It'll be Austin one-on-one!
Third and final, The Undertaker!
Do you believe in miracles?
The streak is over!
Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to WWE Retro on the WWE podcast on this Friday, March 24th, officially 1 week away from WrestleMania. And I have to say, I was originally really down on this WrestleMania, but I'm starting to think that maybe it's going to be better as expected, because I remember last year around this time, I was really down on WrestleMania going in, and aside from the main event of Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns for the third time at a WrestleMania, I would say, I guess, pleasantly surprised. Pleasantly surprised, I guess, would be the best way to have described how I felt about last year's WrestleMania. I didn't like the main event, like I just said, but I thought it over-delivered, and I think with some matches here, specifically the Intercontinental Championship match, the U.S. title match with Theory and John Cena, Logan Paul versus Seth Rollins, even Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns for the Undisputed Championship, I think is going to be a very good in-ring contest. Obviously, the tag team title match, I think that this is going to be a Mania that maybe overshoots expectations than we initially thought, or me personally. I don't know how all of you felt, but I'm starting to kind of turn a corner on what I think this WrestleMania could end up being. I know Matt has said a bunch of times that he thinks that maybe we have an over expectation for Attitude Era, or maybe to a lesser extent Ruthless Aggression stars to come back and always make their presence felt. But we've come to realize with the recent nominations to the Hall of Fame over the last several years, those guys are old. It's crazy to say, but when you start looking at the Hall of Fame and you see guys like Kane and The Undertaker and now Rey Mysterio, it really kind of puts things into perspective for you. It makes you feel old. You know, I'm going to be 29 this year, and I remember being 10 years old, or almost 10 years old, getting ready to watch WrestleMania 20, one of my favorite WrestleManias. But anyway, one of the guys, as we get into today's show, one of the guys who very well could be featured in his final WrestleMania is Edge, as he's slated to go one-on-one with presumably the demon Finn Balor inside the Hell in a Cell. The first Hell in a Cell match we're going to see at WrestleMania, I think since WrestleMania 28, in the end of an era match between The Undertaker and Triple H. Nope, I'm wrong. That's not true. It was The Undertaker versus Shane McMahon. And it's always seen that if there was going to be Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania, it was reserved for The Undertaker, whether it be against Shane McMahon or Triple H, or going way back when against Big Boss Man at WrestleMania 15. And if you guys watched that match, you know it ended with a very disturbing visual. So maybe I'm forgetting one, but this may very well be the first ever WrestleMania to have, or Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania that does not feature The Undertaker. So it's going to be a good match, I think. I'm ready for this program to be over, which I think many people are, including Edge. But it will be a good payoff, and it made me start thinking, because it may be Edge's final match at a WrestleMania. You know, there's rumors going around that he's going to retire this year, following, I believe, a Monday Night Raw in Toronto, his hometown, obviously. How he got to the main event. And obviously, you look at Edge's career path, and whether it be with injuries, starting on the tag team scene, Intercontinental Champion, World Champion, Undertaker, John Cena, he's really kind of done it all. He's had the biggest type of roller coaster career that you could have asked for. And in some ways very good ways, and in others very bad ways. Obviously, when we talk about the injuries that halted his career for almost a full decade, being a predominant bad way that he experienced a roller coaster type of tenure. And I start looking at this, And I start looking at how fascinating his road to becoming a main eventer was. Because obviously you have Edge and Christian in the late 90s. They come in, they spend time with the Brood, time with the Ministry, back a lot solo with the Brood. Or not solo, but in a trio with the Brood. And then they kind of split off on their own during 1999. And then in the year 2000 is when you really have tag team wrestling hit its peak in the history of the WWF at that time. And you get the first installment of their series of matches with the Dudley Boys and the Hardy Boys at WrestleMania 16, a WrestleMania that I recently covered, where they win the tag team championships in a triangle ladder match. And I know that technically they had only 2 TLC matches, or 3-way TLC matches, but a triangle ladder match with the same 6 guys involved, it was essentially the same exact match. So I just lumped them all into one. Then at SummerSlam 2000, they have the first ever TLC match, i.e. the second installment of their trilogy with the Dudleys and the Hardys, and they win again. And then WrestleMania 17, obviously the big one, TLC 2, the third installment of their trilogy, they win a third and final time. And in my opinion, with Edge and Christian winning each and every contest against the Hardys and the Dudleys on a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania, their big 3 trilogy of matches, it really solidified in my mind that they were the best tag team around. And you could make the case that in the history of the company. Sometime along in 2001, him and Christian split. It leads to a match. I believe it was for the Intercontinental Championship at Unforgiven 2001, shortly after Edge wins King of the Ring, which kind of started the animosity between Edge and Christian. I remember Edge was walking around with that big trophy, and a lot of times Christian was the one carrying it. And things kind of boil over during the Invasion angle, where Christian stays on as a heel, aligns himself with the Alliance, and Edge breaks away as a singles competitor and stays along with the WWF. He has a WrestleMania match in Toronto, his first singles Mania match against Booker T, one that he wins, and it seems like 2002 is going to be a massive year for Edge. Wins the tag team titles with Hulk Hogan, wins the tag team titles with Rey Mysterio as he becomes an exclusive member of the SmackDown brand. And as we enter 2002-2003, Edge is really solidifying himself as an upper mid-card guy. Not a main eventer by any stretch, but he's kind of right in the thick of the main event scene, or at least scratching the surface on it. And he was really involved with the Brock Lesnar feud with Kurt Angle, which also spilled into his feud with Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle that is. And he, if I'm not mistaken, he was actually supposed to tag with Chris Benoit at WrestleMania 19, which would ultimately become a triple threat match against Los Guerreros and the world's greatest tag team, Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas. But leading into the No Way Out pay-per-view, when it was supposed to be a 3-on-3 match, 6-man tag of Team Angle, Kurt Angle, Benjamin, and Haas, against Lesnar, Benoit, and Edge in No Way Out in Montreal, one of the best B-level pay-per-views of all time, and I'll probably cover that sometime soon. Edge gets hurt, and obviously probably the first long list of injuries that would ultimately lead to Edge's retirement or early retirement in 2011. So that shelves Edge. It takes him out of the WrestleMania equation, and obviously, like I said, he was supposed to, I believe, I'm like 90% sure that he was supposed to tag with Benoit to be in that tag team match for the SmackDown tag team titles, or then known as the WWE tag team championships, in the triple threat tag match. And this keeps him on the shelf for quite a while. But like I said, when he went out, he was really catching fire. But this injury kept him out for well over a year, because he not only missed WrestleMania 19, he missed WrestleMania 20 as well. And at that point, it was like the whole landscape had shifted, specifically on SmackDown, right? Like when he left, Kurt Angle was the top heel as the world champion. Brock Lesnar was, already a former WWE champion, wins the Royal Rumble, being pushed as the top babyface in the company. And by the time he's ready to return, Brock Lesnar's out of the company. Kurt Angle's actually the temporary GM of SmackDown, or not quite there yet, but Kurt Angle is a heel at this point, about to be the temporary GM of SmackDown, arguably the top heel on the SmackDown brand. Eddie Guerrero is the WWE champion. Chris Benoit had won the Royal Rumble and moved over to Monday Night Raw, and subsequently won the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 20 against Triple H and Shawn Michaels. So for him to come back on SmackDown, I'm sure he could have hit the ground running, but he would have really been just jumping into just foreign waters completely. And also, you just had John Cena win his first ever United States Championship, and 2004 was like the meteoric rise of John Cena to a main eventer against the likes of Booker T and Rene Dupree, Carlito, obviously. So, here comes along the WWE draft, where it's the first time in 2 years, I want to say, that they are going to shake up the rosters of Raw and SmackDown. And it was the perfect opportunity to have a returning Edge get a brand new start on Monday Night Raw.
Well then, goodbye. Goodbye. I want to make one thing very clear. It should be obvious to each and every one of you people. I've been able to withstand 2 general managers. I've even stood up to Stone Cold Steve Austin. I want to make it clear to every one of the talent on both rosters, anybody that I might acquire in the trade, Eric Bischoff is back in a damn big way. My way.
Well, forget that midnight trade deadline.
Your way, that's it. What is this?
So, right off the bat, you get a huge impact by Edge being drafted to Monday Night Raw, and he spears Eric Bischoff. And this was an addition to Monday Night Raw that it was almost like an embarrassment of riches. Because now you had a main event scene with Triple H, Chris Benoit, Shawn Michaels, and then you had a mid-card scene of Randy Orton, still in Evolution, the longest-reigning Intercontinental Champion, Chris Jericho, Christian, Kane. You throw Edge into the mix. Shelton Benjamin came over and split from the World's Greatest Tag Team and Charlie Haas. Like, Edge really just was a cherry on top of Raw's upper mid-card division. And right off the bat, they really had big plans for him. And you saw that as a babyface comes in, makes an impact, spears Eric Bischoff, the whole nine. They had a massive plan to have Edge be an impact player on Monday Night Raw. And as I just mentioned, Randy Orton was in the midst of a 9-month run as Intercontinental Champion, or at least I believe it was 9 months. It was December to July. And they had Edge go up against Randy Orton for the Intercontinental Championship. And the outcome of that match, given the significance of Orton's run, was very indicative of what they thought of Edge.
couldn't beat Orton without any Taylor. He may not beat him all, but beat him all.
Randy Orton, you just said it. Randy Orton may be unbeatable.
I'm trying to cover up here. And Edge is... Great sound. Another cover up. Look at this. Look at this.
I'm beginning to wonder what it's going to take. Randy Orton just got after broke that unexposed metal turnbuckle. Then used the ropes for leverage and still didn't get the win.
Orton encouraging Edge to stand up. Gonna be time for the RKO.
Oh yeah, I feel an RKO there. I feel it coming on. Oh!
Edge will go to the RKO. Orton makes some more turnbuckle. Edge just... He's going to that point.
I feel a spear.
Leapfrogging the spear, and this time it's Edge. Who went face first into the second turnbuckle.
Athleticism. I mean, it's athleticism personified. Here, no.
Let's go to the RKO. The Bucks slow the Edge. The Bucks slow the From count away from the Intercontinental Champion.
Look at these people. Everybody in this arena's on their feet. You can't blame them.
A series of near falls. Exchange. Exchange. And it's no turnbuckle. The spear. That's not the end. It is. Edge is won the title. Oh my God. Randy Orton took the turnbuckle off, and he paid the price. The exposed turnbuckle, right to Orton's spine, and then the spear. What a hell of a wrestling match. Edge did not give up, King. You gotta hand him that.
This is a travesty. Randy Orton's title reign. The Intercontinental Championship has been stripped from the strap for Randy Orton. I can't believe it.
Well, the Edge has made their presence felt here as Edge wins the Intercontinental title for the 5th time. And Randy Orton has tasted defeat in a championship match for the first time in his life.
So Edge wins the Intercontinental Championship for the 5th time in his career, and he ultimately would win his first title, or I believe this was his last Intercontinental Championship, and the first singles championship he would hold in just about 2 years, and Edge would go on a decent run with it, eventually drops it to Chris Jericho, and this is when they really started making a big push with Edge, and really trying to, switch up his character, because at this point, he was a babyface, and he had only been a babyface since splitting from Edge and Christian in 2001. And yes, you have to account for the 13-14 month period where he was on the sidelines. But, he had been just a squeaky clean babyface for a good stretch here. And in the fall of 2004, they make the decision to turn him heel, where he loses out on being the guy to face Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship at Taboo Tuesday, ends up tagging with Chris Benoit in a tag team match against La Resistance, isn't happy with that, walks out on Benoit. Benoit actually wins the tag team titles anyway for him and Edge, and when they have the rematch against La Resistance, Edge turns on Benoit, beats the hell out of him, and they go on their merry way, and we obviously have a brand new heel version of Edge. And this was kind of apropos, right? Because he was supposed to tag with Benoit at WrestleMania 19 for the tag team titles. Then upon his return in the spring of 2004 and his movement to Raw, he actually won the Raw tag team titles, or back then known as the World Tag Team Championships, with Benoit when Benoit was a world champion as well. So you had Benoit as a dual champion. And then when they win it for the second time, just 4 or 5 months later, it results in Edge snapping that his sights are on the World Heavyweight title, and it results in him having a heel turn. You go into the winter of 2005, and you could tell they're very much putting the rocket strap to Edge at this point. He's involved now in one of the main events of Survivor Series, 4-on-4. For some reason, they made it a 4-on-4 match as opposed to 5-on-5 in 2004, where he tags with then world champion Triple H, Batista, and Snitsky faces off against Benoit, Jericho, Maven, and Randy Orton. Then he gets involved in the Elimination Chamber match, the first Elimination Chamber match, and I want to say it may have been 2.5 years, or a year and a half, actually. A year and a half, the first Chamber match in a year and a half at the inaugural New Year's Resolution pay-per-view, or Revolution, for the vacant World Heavyweight Championship, with him, Benoit, Jericho, Orton, Triple H, and Batista, with HBK as the special guest referee. Then he gets actually eliminated by Shawn Michaels as he hits Shawn Michaels with a spear, and Shawn Michaels responds with a Sweet Chin Music that leads to Edge being the first one eliminated. That leads to a rivalry between the two that culminates at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view that same month. And then we get to WrestleMania 21 in 2005 for the inaugural Money in the Bank ladder match with Edge, Christian, Jericho, Chris Benoit, Shelton Benjamin, and Kane. And look, this was a match that clearly proved to be one of the bigger match ideas in WWE history. You fast forward 18 years and it has its own pay-per-view. It's resulted in some of the more historic and memorable moments in the history of the company. And the fact that Edge was a major player in the first one certainly cemented himself in WWE history. But in my opinion, it solidified that this guy was on a collision course with the main event scene.
He deserves it for what he's going through. I gotta agree with you now. He doesn't deserve this. Edge hit me with an injured arm. Is he opportunistic Edge? Don't tell me Edge is going to win this thing. No, come on. Look. Somebody get in there. Somebody even he's there. Edge is there. He's got it. Oh my God, this is done it. Edge has won the match. Here we go with our chair shot. That's basically chair shot. Oh, get him on the head arm. Benoit was one step away from winning this Money in the Bank ladder match. One step away, King. But I gotta say, Benoit didn't do it. If anybody deserved to win this match, Edge did. Edge deserved it. Look at that look of satisfaction on his face. I think there's 20,193 here in Hollywood that might not agree with you. Edge, in any event, can wrestle the world heavyweight champion, whoever that may be, anytime he chooses within the next 12 months. Well, I hope.
So Edge wins the Money in the Bank ladder match, and this is the dawn of the Rated R Superstar era, where in 2005 he aligns himself with Lita after she turns on Kane. They have a mini program. Then in one of the more, I guess, realistic storylines in the history of the company that kind of came to life on television, you have a returning Matt Hardy play on the real life affair that happened with Edge and Lita, and that strings across the entire summertime. I remember watching that with my buddies. We were 11, 12 years old and thinking like, oh my God, is this real? Is it not? One of the best storylines ever, if not the best, in terms of blurring the lines between reality versus television. And it ultimately ends in a loser leaves Raw match for the Money in the Bank ladder, for the Money in the Bank briefcase. I believe it was Raw Homecoming in the fall of 2005. Edge obviously wins that. Matt Hardy leaves Raw. He goes to SmackDown. And Edge is able to concentrate on now going on to bigger and better things. And the brilliant part about this run with Edge as the Rated R Superstar and as the, like, his slow rise into that main event with the briefcase was that they really didn't lay it on thick. They played the extreme long game here, which brought us all the way 9 months later, give or take, to New Year's Revolution 2006, where the main event was an Elimination Chamber match between John Cena, Carlito, Chris Masters, Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels, and Kane. And the match comes and goes. John Cena just historically, heroically retains the championship covered in blood. And just when we thought the night was over, we were in for Edge's coronation as a main eventer.
This individual is cashing in his money in the bank privilege that he earned at WrestleMania. The WWE Championship match will take place right here, right now. John Cena defends against Edge.
He's the king.
Well, I thought, and I said it earlier tonight, are you kidding me? That Edge would use it at WrestleMania. But Edge is cashing in, and cashing it in big time when John Cena is at his weakest. Turn around, Johnny boy. Turn around, it's over.
Edge is just waiting on the WWE Champion. It's waiting on him. He hit the spear. He hit the spear into the spear. Two. No!
Did he get it?
No, he didn't.
How in the world did John Cena kick out of that? Was it a 3 or a 2?
It was a two. It was a two, and Edge is in total disbelief.
I don't think Edge is the only one in disbelief. After all that Cena's gone through. Look at Edge now. He can't believe it.
The disbelief now turning to frustration and anger. You can see the face of Edge changing.
No, not another spear. But I guess Edge figures that's what it's going to take.
Edge will spear John Cena over and over again if he has to.
Oh, and again.
Cover! He did it! Oh my God, what has happened here tonight?
Are you? I can't believe it. I can't believe it. This was indeed a historical night.
Edge has shocked the world!
Well, I'll tell you what he's done. He's stolen the damn title.
And just like that, Edge had solidified himself as a main eventer in WWE. Now, was it a automatic, I guess, consistent role in the main event? Of course not. Later that month at WrestleMania, or at Royal Rumble, I should say, he loses the title back to John Cena. And I would actually argue that his true solidification that he was one of the go-to guys was at WrestleMania 22 with Mick Foley. And Mick Foley playing the part once again as a guy to put over younger up-and-coming talent as, you know, main eventers. He did it with The Rock. He did it with Triple H. He did it with Randy Orton. And he did it with Edge at WrestleMania 22 in their Extreme Rules match that culminated with Edge spearing Foley through a table engulfed with flames. Him and Foley go on a kind of like a quasi tag team run together where they're the co-hardcore champions. They defeat Terry Funk and Tommy Dreamer in a tag team Extreme Rules match at One Night Stand. And then that same night, he cost John Cena the WWE Championship once again for Rob Van Dam. And then Edge would regain the championship following Vengeance 2005 and become a 2-time WWE champion, which would really allow us to see and experience a full program of John Cena and Edge throughout the summer of 2006 that culminated with a TLC match at Unforgiven 2006, an amazing pay-per-view that had John Cena win, but one of those moments where you really won in a losing effort, and I think that was what we saw with Edge during his program with John Cena. And you know, that match ended with him getting FU'd at the time, now attitude adjusted, off a ladder through I believe 2 or 3 tables, an absolutely brutal bump, and be post 2006 until his ultimate retirement, and then him coming back. It has just been main event seen across the board for Edge. Obviously would become a 2-time Money in the Bank briefcase winner, cashed it in on The Undertaker in 2007, won multiple world championships, kind of became a staple on SmackDown in the later 2000s, which was weird, right? Because it took him going over to Monday Night Raw to really cement himself as a main eventer. But then you can make the case that he did his absolutely best work over on SmackDown as the world heavyweight champion during his rivalries with The Undertaker and Triple H and whatnot in the late 2000s. But all in all, you saw them really do an amazing job building Edge for about an 18-month period from the spring of 2004 until the winter of 2006, and then really put the cherry on the cake in the summer of 2006. And if this is Edge's last run, it's been a memorable one. And even though it has gotten a bit redundant at times with the Judgment Day, it's been pretty cool to see Edge come back since the Royal Rumble 2020. And we'll see. But all in all, this was a great rise to the main event of Edge in the mid-2000s. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for you today. As always, you can get me on Twitter at AdaMarco25. You can get Matt on Twitter at Wrestling_audio, or you can email him each and every week for the WWE Podcast Mailbag. I will not be doing a retro next week, as it is WrestleMania week, and as you remember, I don't record retro on pay-per-view weeks, but I will be back this Monday for a returning episode of the current state of WWE with Matt. Anyway, guys, enjoy your weekend. I will be talking to you in 2 weeks' time, and enjoy WrestleMania.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.